Well, first thing I want to say is thanks to Sheriff Mack. It's been an honor to have Sheriff Mack on the board of directors for Oath Keepers. It was an obvious fit. He's been an Oath Keeper for 20 years, long before this organization ever started. He was already keeping his oath. And it's really an honor to talk to all of you. A lot of times when I talk to a general audience, I'll kind of, give them some tough love. But I kind of feel like in this room, there's some real stalwart defenders of the Constitution already here. And I look at it more like the band of brothers. We few, we happy few, we band of brothers. So it's an honor to talk to so many stand-up American sheriffs, guys that I know are going to keep the oath and have the same kind of courage that I saw in the U.S. military that I know is still there. Like I always tell people, I've given up on politicians and other lawyers. Long before I was a lawyer, I swore an oath as an Army paratrooper. That's the real oath that I keep. Because most lawyers have long ago abdicated the Constitution, and so have politicians, and so have the judges. And so that's the whole point of Oath Keepers, to focus on the guys with the guns. And that includes you, all you lawmen out there. They cannot and will not destroy this republic so long as you keep your oath. As simple as that. And that's the one great Achilles heel they have. The powers that be think that once they gain political power, by hook and by crook, that once they gain political power, you are obedient little soldiers or obedient robots who will do as they're told, or as Kissinger called the people in the military, dumb animals. That's what they think. They think you'll just do whatever you're told. Well, in this room are men who've already proven that's wrong. And the same goes for those in the military right now. I have no doubt in my mind there's honor and courage, both in the military and with the men who wear the badges. The only question is do they have the knowledge of what's right? That's the only question. That's the whole point of Sheriff Mack's work, the only point of my work. You got courage and honor. And I know that as soon as they do know what's right, they will do what's right. And anybody who says that they're going to be cowards and obey their orders just because to save their own skin doesn't understand them. They don't understand what it is to be a warrior. I know you understand what that is. So let's set aside any question about that. The only question is, do you know what's right? And I think, for the most part, the men who are in this room, you self-selected. You came here because you know what's right, and you want to help spread it. Isn't that correct? That's right. And the same goes for the military. I know once we tell them what's right and teach them, they'll do the right thing. They have the courage and honor. All they need is the truth. And one drop of truth is an antidote to a whole bucket of bull. All the brainwashing they got when they're in public schools, all the intentional dumbing down we all got in public schools, not taught our own history, not taught the Constitution, not taught our heritage intentionally. And that's why Southern Poverty Law Center and other groups like that hate Sheriff Mack, hate myself, hate Thomas Woods. They hate anybody who's going to speak the truth because they know the truth will prevail. So now I'm going to talk to you. I'm going to speak a little bit of truth today about the NDAA. The National Defense Authorization Act of 2012. Sounds good, right? Who wouldn't want to authorize the military and support the troops? But John McCain, that traitor, along with Carl Levin, the other traitor, two peas in the same pod, two different parties, but the same actual party, the party of totalitarianism, they snuck that into the National Defense Authorization Act, a provision that would justify and claim to give authority to the president to apply the laws of war to the American people precisely the same as if you were all Iraqis or in Afghanistan. And there was no difference. Allow me to prove that to you. What can be done to an enemy in wartime? What's the first thing you can do to an enemy in wartime? You can just kill them, right? Shoot them on sight. Sniper rifle, Hellfire missile, fork in the eye, whatever you want. That's the first thing you can do to an enemy in wartime. What's the second thing you can do to an enemy in wartime? You can capture and detain. For how long, Jay? Till the duration of the hostilities. They can be a POW. If they're a lawful combatant obeying the laws of war, you can't kill them, but you can detain them. Once you capture them, you have to treat them fairly, and you can detain them for the duration of conflict. If they violated the laws of war, what can you do to them? You can try them by commission for violations of laws of war, like we did the Nazis at Nuremberg, like we did to some of the Japanese generals who, after the war was over, who had killed civilians and killed some of our own men in the Philippines, they got a trial by commission and were tried for violations of laws of war. You can kill, you can capture and detain for the duration, you can use military tribunal against them. What does this friggin' bill claim to be able to do to Americans? Authorize the president to use military force, military detention without trial for the duration of the conflict, military trial by commission, or extraordinary rendition to a foreign power. Any foreign country or any other foreign entity is what it says. And that applies to any person. That's what it says there. Does it apply to U.S. citizens? Oh, you bet. Because what they're saying in this bill is that, well, back in 2001, in the 2001 authorization for use of military force, when we said the president had the authority to go and use military force against those nations, organizations, and persons that he determines had anything to do with 9/11, what they're saying in this bill is when we said all that, we also meant military detention for the duration of the conflict and military trial and extraordinary rendition. In other words, they're affirming and giving the rubber stamp to everything that's been done since 9/11 by the Bush administration and the Obama administration in gross violation of the Constitution of the United States by applying the laws of war, not just to foreign combatants in wartime, but to you, to the American people. Bush detained 2 American citizens, Yasser Hamdi and Jose Padilla, 2 American citizens. Now you might say to yourself, so what, they're dirtbags, right? Some might say that. Okay, we'll give them a trial. Prove they're dirtbags. Prove they're traitors. Because what is it? What do you call an American who makes war against his own country or aids the enemy? What is that? It's called treason. Now where is that at? Let's look. Let's do something the Supreme Court rarely does. Let's take the Constitution itself. First of all, Article 3, Section 2, Clause 3 states, the trial of all crimes, except in cases of impeachment, shall be by jury. The very next section, Article 3, Section 3, defines the crime of treason. Treason against the United States shall consist only in levying war against them or in adhering to their enemies, giving them aid and comfort. That is what treason is. So when Jose Padilla was accused of being part of al-Qaeda or aiding al-Qaeda, what was he being accused of? Levying war against the United States or aiding its enemies. Treason. What do you do with an American accused of that? You try them for treason. Where? In an Article 3 court, a civilian court, before a jury of their peers, a trial by jury, as mandated by Article 3 itself. Not to mention the friggin' 4th and 5th, 6th Amendments, which make sure extra protection, extra guarantee that you will get a civilian grand jury indictment, that's the 5th Amendment, and you will get a jury trial, that's the 6th Amendment. But Article 3, the Treason Clause, is all you need to understand what nonsense this is. This idea the laws of war can be brought home and applied to the American people. Does Congress have the authority to declare war on the American people? Please show it to me in the Constitution. Is the president authorized to wage war on the American people as though they were a foreign enemy? It's not there. And not only does Article 3, Section 3, define the crime of treason, it also says no person shall be convicted of treason unless on the testimony of 2 witnesses to the same overt act. 2, not just 1, 2, in the same act. Not a secret witness that you can't confront. You have the right to confront your accuser in a jury trial before a jury of your peers. Or on confession in open court. Now, why'd they want that? Because they knew the history of the Star Chamber in England. They knew their own history, all the abuses they had suffered that had caused them to fight a revolution. Torture was often used, and has been since, to coerce confessions and make you admit your guilt, and then they're used against you. In the 20th century, we saw that already with the show trials in the Soviet Union, and also with the show trials in Germany. Same kind of crap was done then. But the founders lived through it. So what this does, let me tell you right now, what the NDAA detention and trial provisions and military force provisions do is exactly the same thing our forefathers rebelled against in the American Revolution. Let's go back and look at the Declaration of Independence. He has effected to render the military independent of and superior to the civil power. This does the same. The laws of war trump the Bill of Rights. The laws of war trump the entire Constitution. The laws of war trump the 10th Amendment, trump the states, trump everything. That's the argument. That was an excuse for Bush using the NSA to spy on all Americans without warrant. He's observing the battlefield. That was the claim. He's surveilling the battlefield as commander-in-chief. That was the defense. It's the excuse that Obama gives now for putting Americans on a secret snuff list. He's already killed Al-Awlaki and his teenage son. Once again, you might say, well, Al-Awlaki's a dirtbag. But guess what? Once you open this door and allow your president to have the same kind of power over life and death on his say-so alone over any American, then you've wiped away your own protections. There's no legal difference between Al-Awlaki and you. There's none. It's the principle. It's not the person. If you are an American citizen or lawful resident, you have a right to a trial before a jury of your peers. If they prove you're guilty of treason, by all means, hang them. But I will not rip down the Bill of Rights to go get at a bad guy or some dirtbag and wind up trashing everything that the founders fought for and everything that every fighting man in America since has fought for. I won't do it. I had two grandfathers who fought in World War II. One of them did not come home. Never even saw his daughter, my mother. She was born after he was dead. God damn, I will not let this be for nothing. I won't let his sacrifice be in vain. And in a minute here, we're going to bring up Bob Botkin, who was a World War II 101st Airborne veteran of the Battle of the Bulge, to talk to you. I asked him to come here for that reason. You can't let their sacrifices be in vain. They fought against fascism over there. And now it is coming here. It is coming here wrapped in a flag, in the name of national security, in the name of patriotism. That's why they call it the Patriot Act. And that's why they put this junk inside the National Defense Authorization Act. They want you to think that if you go against it, you're not a patriot, when the opposite is true. A true patriot always stands for liberty. And an oath keeper, not saying in the organization, but a man who keeps his oath will always defend the Constitution no matter what. And the Constitution was written for emergencies. It's written for when you're scared and when you're angry during wartime. That's what it's for. They understood war and emergency, and they provided for it. That's why the treason clause is there. That's why habeas suspension is there. Has Congress suspended habeas corpus? No. That's their detention provision they could trigger, but they won't do it. Why? Because they know it's not politically feasible. So, and I even had a federal judge tell me this. So instead, they're reinterpreting the laws of war to come home. And just like King George, what this is, he has combined with others to subject us to a jurisdiction foreign to our Constitution and unacknowledged by our laws, giving his assent to their acts of pretend legislation. This is no different. For depriving us, in many cases, of the benefit of trial by jury. And Parliament did that by statute. Most of this was done by statute. For transporting us beyond the seas to be tried for pretend offenses. That was another statute to allow them to take American colonists across the seas to be tried for treason in England in front of a hostile English jury rather than a jury of his own peers. And why did they want to strip away jury trial? They knew a notorious smuggler like John Hancock would never be convicted of anything in front of a jury of his peers in Boston. They knew that. So they wanted to deprive jury trial. And they also had another law they passed that expanded the jurisdiction of the courts of admiralty. So what's happening now is the same thing. Expanding the jurisdiction of the military courts, subjecting us to a jurisdiction foreign to our Constitution. What's more foreign to our Constitution than the international laws of war? Can you think of anything else more foreign than that? And then it says here, for taking away our charters, abolishing our most valuable laws, and altering fundamentally the forms of our government. And the last charge against the king, he has abdicated government here by declaring us out of his protection and waging war against us. Well, I would submit that Congress has just passed what is really a declaration of war on the American people in the NDAA. And they think they've got it all figured out. But they should go back and read what they said about King George and take heed. They are abdicating their right to legislate Obama is advocating his right to sit in that chair, and the Supreme Court is advocating their right to wear those robes. Because if they destroy the Constitution, which they're almost successful in doing, by doing so, they will have destroyed what gives them their offices. And all they are after that is just naked men and women with no power whatsoever. They have no power anyway outside the Constitution, right? But if they destroy the Constitution, they will have destroyed that which created their offices. And by doing so, they will have abdicated any right to sit in those positions. And that's where they are. We are right now at a crossroads. We're either 1935 Germany, and we'll slide into a dark despotism and hell on earth. That's where we are, folks. Or we're in 1775 America. So you got a choice which one it is. Which one's it going to be? And I'm going to close with one last thing. How much time do I have left? 30 seconds? I'm sure Mr. Thomas Woods will talk about this later, but the solution is you nullifying at every level, individual, town, county, state, as military units, and we already got guys doing this, as individual officers are saying no to this. We got a county saying no to already in Colorado. I helped write a resolution for Oklahoma that'll be introduced this week. The 10th Amendment Center is writing more resolutions for around the country. That is the answer. On the one hand, nullification. On the other hand, is getting the bums out of office. Every oath breaker who voted for this, I don't care who they were, what party they're in, what their excuse were, they got to go. They're either knowing traitors like John McCain and Carl Levin and Lindsey Graham, or they're useful idiots. Take your pick which one it is. Regardless, they got to go. That's the solution. Nullification and rooting them out, regardless of party, regardless of their excuse, a scorched earth policy against every oath breaker. And the model for this is what Jefferson and Madison did in response to the Alien Sedition Acts. They did that exact thing. They swept the Federalists out of power, and they also nullified. They went to the state legislatures and said, you have an obligation to interpose yourselves and declare this null and void. And Mr. Woods will tell you all more about that, no doubt. So that's the answer. Stand up for the Constitution. That's all I got to say.